The grand ballroom was buzzing with excitement as the Patterson family gathered for its annual reunion in Detroit. A tradition that had been passed down for generations. It was more than just a family gathering. It was a celebration of legacy, of pride, and of the values that had shaped the family's empire. The shimmering chandeliers cast a soft glow over the perfectly arranged tables, each adorned with fresh flowers and elegant place settings. Laughter filled the air as relatives, old and young, mingled over champagne and hors d'oeuvres, exchanging stories and jokes like the tight-knit family they prided themselves on being. I stood in the corner of the room, cradling my 3-month-old daughter, Olivia, in my arms. Her soft coos were a soothing contrast to the commotion around us. As I rocked her gently in my arms, my eyes drifted to my husband, Luke, standing at the front of the room. He was rehearsing his speech for the prestigious Legacy Award, a moment he'd been eagerly anticipating. The irony of it all was almost too much to bear. Here he was, the shining star of Patterson Industries, about to accept an award for embodying the very values he had spent years touting: loyalty, integrity, family first. He was the golden boy, the one who had it all. Or so the world thought. I could barely contain the smirk tugging at my lips as I watched him. No one knew what I knew. They didn't know about the betrayal I had uncovered that very morning, the betrayal that threatened to unravel the perfect life I'd spent years building. Luke had left his phone on the hotel room desk while he took a shower. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But this morning, something caught my eye. A message previewed on the lock screen. "Missing you already. Last night was incredible." The message was from someone named Kate D., his assistant. With my heart racing in my chest, I picked up his phone. Still unlocked with our wedding date as the password, something I now realized he'd long forgotten to change. The screen flickered to life, and my world tilted on its axis. Hundreds of messages, photos, and an itinerary for a trip to the Bahamas. All from Kate. As I stood there, holding my daughter, the room suddenly felt smaller, suffocating. I didn't know how I had managed to keep it together. But I did. Luke had no idea what I knew. No idea that I had seen his secrets. That I knew about the affair he'd been carrying on for months. Or about the deal he was making with Kate to siphon business from Patterson Industries. Yet here he was, in front of his family, rehearsing a speech about loyalty, about family, about values. His words floated through the air, but they felt hollow now. "Sophia, dear," I heard my mother-in-law's voice pull me back to reality. I turned to see Margaret, her perfectly coiffed hair and society smile in place. "Is everything ready for Luke's speech? This award means so much to the family." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral, the mask I'd perfected slipping effortlessly back into place. "Almost," I said, adjusting Olivia's blanket. "Just need to check the technical setup one last time." Margaret beamed at me, her approval radiating from every word. "You're always so thorough. We're lucky to have you in the family." I swallowed the bitter taste in my mouth. If only she knew. If only any of them knew the truth about their golden boy. But they would, soon enough. I glanced back at Luke, still rehearsing his speech, completely oblivious to the storm that was brewing. The irony wasn't lost on me. As I walked toward the AV control panel to check the connections, my hands didn't tremble. Not yet. Not until it was time. The room continued to hum with chatter. And I thought about how easily it all could have been. A perfect family. A perfect life. But now, it was all about to crumble. As the water in the shower ran, I found myself frozen in front of Luke's phone. His messages filled the screen, each one a new piece to a puzzle I hadn't even known existed. The phone buzzed again, and I couldn't look away. The messages were intimate, personal, far too personal for someone who was supposed to be my husband. "Can't wait for our morning check-in. Handsome, I have a surprise for you." Closing parenthesis quote. I felt the blood drain from my face as the words burned into my mind. Kate, the name that had now become a venomous whisper in my ear. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the conversation, each message more damning than the last. There were plans for trips, personal notes that no assistant should have, and the most gut-wrenching discovery, a detailed itinerary for a vacation in the Bahamas. scheduled for the following month. They were planning a life together. One that didn't include me. I felt sick. It was as though my entire world had shifted on its axis, leaving me off balance and dizzy with disbelief. I had always trusted Luke. He was my rock, the father of our daughter, the man I thought I'd known better than anyone. But now I was staring at a stranger's words on his phone. A man who didn't even deserve the legacy award he was about to receive. I knew that this moment would change everything. And as I sat there, holding my breath, trying to suppress the rising anger and heartbreak, I realized something. Luke had made the mistake of leaving his phone behind. But I had made the choice to look. And now there was no turning back. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. But strangely, in that moment, I felt a strange kind of calmness settle over me. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was about power. About control. About reclaiming everything that had been taken from me without my knowing. I didn't just need to confront Luke, I needed to take back the life I'd worked so hard to build. I closed the phone and took a deep breath, steadying myself before walking back into the room. My mind raced with the realization of what I now knew. What I would do with this knowledge. But as I stood up and began to prepare for what was next, one thought remained clear in my head. Luke's carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. Before I share what happened next, the moment that left an entire room of journalists in stunned silence, I want to connect with you. My amazing viewers, where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever had to fight for something you believe in, hit that like button, because this story is just getting started. I felt a strange sense of empowerment washing over me as I glanced back at Luke, still rehearsing his speech with the same charm that had always made him so successful. The irony wasn't lost on me. He had no idea that the perfect life he had been pretending to live was about to be shattered. Piece by piece. I wasn't just about to expose his affair. I was about to reclaim my own future. The storm was coming, and I was ready for it. The room hummed with excitement as family members gathered around, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Laughter and conversation filled the air as people exchanged pleasantries, taking their seats and preparing for the ceremony. My mother-in-law, Margaret, was at the front, overseeing every detail with a practiced eye. Her smile as perfectly manicured as her hair. The kind of smile that never faltered, no matter the circumstance. She leaned over to me as I adjusted Olivia in my arms. Her voice soft but insistent. Sophia, dear, everything's in place. Yes? We can't afford any hiccups now. This award means so much to the family. I forced a smile, my heart a heavy weight in my chest. Almost perfect. Margaret, just a final check on the tech setup. Margaret beamed, clearly pleased with my attention to detail. You're always so thorough, darling. I'm so glad you're a part of this family. I nodded, but inside, I couldn't help but feel the sting of irony. If only she knew. If only any of them knew what I knew. They thought Luke was the perfect son, the perfect husband, the perfect man. But I had seen through the cracks in that illusion. While they praised him, I saw the real Luke, the one who had betrayed me. The one who had built a life with lies. All while wearing the mask of a devoted family man. As I glanced around the room, I noticed the adoring gazes of his family members. Samuel, his father, stood nearby, nodding approvingly at the preparations for the ceremony. His chest puffed with pride as he spoke about his son's achievements. Luke is the heart and soul of Patterson Industries, Samuel said, his voice booming with that familiar, fatherly pride. We're so fortunate to have him carrying on the family legacy. The words hung in the air, but they felt like an insult now. Luke had always been the golden boy. He had worked his way up the ranks. Always with a smile, always with charm. He was the man everyone looked up to, admired, and adored. But none of them saw the darker side. None of them knew the secrets he'd been keeping. I wanted to shout it out. To tell them all the truth. To expose the man who had fooled them for so long. But I held my tongue. For now. Instead, I kept moving, adjusting Olivia's blanket, trying to act normal, trying to keep the world from seeing the raw, exposed truth that was eating away at me. I made my way to the AV control panel, where I ran a final check on the equipment, trying to keep my hands steady. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was playing a part in this grand charade. Luke had no idea that I knew. He stood across the room, laughing with some distant cousin, his charming smile lighting up his face. He was everything they thought he was, everything they had always believed he was. The perfect son, the perfect husband, the perfect man, and I was the fool who had trusted him. The fool who had built a life around this illusion. But not anymore. The calm that had settled over me earlier was still there, steadying my heart, guiding my steps. I was no longer the woman who had quietly accepted the role of the dutiful wife. I was something else now, a woman with a plan. A woman who had seen the truth, and who was ready to expose it. The family gathered in their seats, taking their places, as Luke prepared to walk up to the podium and accept his award. The world was about to see the facade crumble, and I couldn't wait to see it happen. The moment of reckoning was drawing near, and nothing could stop it. The room fell silent as Luke took his place at the podium. His eyes scanning the room filled with family members, colleagues, and friends. The applause was deafening, the sound of adoration pouring from every corner of the room. I watched him, a practiced smile on his lips, his hands adjusting the microphone as if everything was perfectly in place. The perfect golden boy, standing in front of everyone, ready to accept the legacy award. But I knew what he didn't. I knew what was about to unfold, and my heart raced as I took my seat in the front row. Olivia's small hand resting gently in mine. The lights dimmed slightly, the projector behind him flickering to life as the stage was set for his speech. It was all happening so quickly, and yet, every second felt stretched, heavy with anticipation. I glanced at the AV panel one last time, confirming the system was set for any incoming video calls. I could feel my pulse quicken as I waited, knowing what was coming next. My eyes flickered back to Luke, his face glowing with pride as he began to speak about family values, about tradition, and about the importance of loyalty. The words sounded hollow in my ears, each sentence more painful than the last. And so, it's my honor, Luke continued, to accept this legacy award on behalf of my family and our work here at Patterson Industries. We've built something truly special, something that stands for integrity and loyalty. I could hardly keep my composure as the words left his lips. He was talking about loyalty, about integrity, values he had clearly thrown away without a second thought. The irony was almost too much to bear, but I held my gaze steady, watching as the room cheered for him. They had no idea what was about to happen. And then it came. The familiar buzz of Luke's phone vibrating on the podium caught my attention. And I knew it was time. I could feel the weight of the moment press down on me. And my hands moved instinctively, connecting his phone to the AV system with a quiet click. I held my breath, knowing that in a matter of seconds, the screen behind Luke would light up with the one person he never wanted them to see. The screen flickered for a brief moment, and then there she was. Kate. Her face appeared in full view, her blonde hair a mess of curls, her smile playful and entirely unaware of the audience that was about to witness her betrayal. She leaned forward into the camera, her voice purring through the speakers. "Hey, handsome," Kate greeted, a flirtatious smile stretching across her face. The words hit the air like a slap. "Missing you already. That quick meeting in your office this morning wasn't nearly enough." The entire room froze. There was no denying what was happening now. Luke's face drained of color as he turned to see the screen light up with the woman who had been the one to tear apart everything he had claimed to be. His eyes locked with mine, horror seeping into his features as he realized what had just been exposed. "Oh my God," Kate continued, oblivious to the growing tension. "I've already started reaching out to some of Patterson Industries' clients. They're very interested in what we have to offer." I didn't even flinch as I saw the shock on Luke's face. He stumbled back, trying to recover his composure. But it was too late. The room was already in chaos, the murmurs of disbelief growing louder by the second. My mother-in-law, Margaret, gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in a mix of confusion and shock. Samuel, Luke's father, stood frozen, his expression hardening as the magnitude of what was unfolding hit him. Kate didn't stop. She was still speaking, oblivious to the destruction she was causing. "Once we get your family's main investors on board, we'll be set," It's all in motion. Luke, I'm so excited to start this new chapter with you. I met Luke's gaze calmly. The tears that I had been holding back were gone now, replaced with a calm certainty. He was a man whose carefully crafted world had just been shattered. The weight of his lies was no longer a secret. Kate, Luke managed to croak, his voice cracking with panic. Stop. But it was too late. The damage had been done. Kate's face paled as she finally noticed the background behind Luke, the conference room. The family members staring at the screen in stunned silence. She froze, her smile faltering as realization dawned on her. Oh my God, she whispered, her voice barely audible as she disconnected the call. The screen went black, but the damage was already done. The room remained silent for what felt like an eternity. The shocked faces of family members looked from Luke to me, and then back again. The trust, the admiration, the legacy, everything had just crumbled in front of them. Luke stood there, speechless, as his world and his family's world unraveled in real time. I stood up, still holding Olivia in my arms. The weight of the moment pressed down on me, but I knew what I had to do. I think Kate explained everything quite clearly. I said, my voice steady as I addressed Luke, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in a matter of minutes. And I'm sure the board will be very interested in hearing more about your plans to steal clients. The sound of murmurs grew louder, and I could hear the familiar click of cell phones as family members began to document the chaos. But I wasn't paying attention to any of them. I was done. With one final glance at Luke, I walked out of the room, Olivia secure in my arms. I could hear my mother-in-law crying softly behind me. But I didn't turn around. This was no longer my fight to save. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need any help to be exposed, it just needs the right stage. And tonight, that stage had been set. The aftermath hit me like a tidal wave, crashing against everything I had thought I knew about my life. I walked out of the conference room, my footsteps steady but my heart pounding in my chest. Luke's shocked face, his desperate attempts to explain, followed me. But I didn't care. Not anymore. I had seen the truth. And the truth was louder than any of his lies. Outside the ballroom, the air felt cool against my skin, a stark contrast to the heat of the chaos I had just left behind. Olivia nestled quietly in my arms, unaware of the storm that had just torn through our lives. I kept walking, each step firm, as if I were putting distance between myself and the shattered image of the man I once loved. But even as I moved away from the wreckage, I knew this wasn't over. This was only the beginning. Luke's betrayal wasn't just a personal failure, it was a corporate scandal. One that would reverberate through Patterson Industries for years to come. And I wasn't about to stand by and let him destroy everything we had worked for. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out, reading the message from my lawyer. Jessica, we need to talk. I've already received calls from the board members. They're preparing for action. I responded quickly, my fingers moving with determination. I'm on my way. Let's set up a meeting. The next few hours felt like a blur of legal jargon and endless discussions. But the one thing that became clear was that the fallout was only just beginning. The board of directors at Patterson Industries had already made their move. They were freezing Luke's access to company accounts, cutting off his power, and investigating his involvement in the corporate espionage that had been exposed on that screen. Jessica sat across from me, her expression serious as she briefed me on the details. Kate Parker has already been fired, and legal action is underway. But there's another issue we need to address. Several clients have reached out to me, expressing concerns. They trusted you, Sophia. You were the face of the tech division. They're not just looking to cut ties with the company. They're looking for assurances that the values they've trusted are still intact. Her words struck a chord. I hadn't just been a wife to Luke. I had been the backbone of Patterson Industries' technical side. I had earned the trust of the company's clients, built relationships, and established credibility. And now, I would need to stand up and fight for everything I had worked for. For Olivia, for my future, and for the legacy that had been tarnished by one man's greed. As I walked into my lawyer's office, the weight of the decisions ahead of me settled over me. I had to protect my daughter, my reputation, and the company I had spent years helping to grow. But the thought of facing Luke again, the man who had once been my partner, my confidant, made my stomach turn. How had it all come to this? The phone buzzed again, this time from Samuel, Luke's father, his name flashing across the screen. My stomach twisted with unease. But I answered. Sophia, I need to speak with you. Samuel's voice was strained, thick with emotion. I know what happened today was a shock to all of us. But I need you to understand that we're doing everything we can to fix this. Luke made a terrible mistake. But the board, we need your help. We need you to step in and lead. The company needs you now more than ever. His words were a mixture of desperation and pride. But they only fueled the fire that had been burning inside me all afternoon. The company needed me? I had always been there. Behind the scenes, making the systems run smoothly, solving problems, and handling the tech side of things. But now, they were asking me to do something bigger, to rebuild what Luke had broken. I understand, I said, my voice calm but firm. I'll help, but I want full control. I'll need a position that reflects my work, my contributions, and my vision for this company. Samuel paused before responding, and I could hear him taking in a deep breath. You'll have it, Sophia. The board is already prepared to offer you a position as the new CTO. You've earned it. I didn't hesitate. And Luke? I asked, already knowing the answer. His shares will be bought out at minimum value. And he'll be stripped of any further position within the company. Samuel replied, his voice growing colder. As for the rest, that will be dealt with legally. The deal was struck. I had a plan. It wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about taking back control. Not just of my life, but of the company I had helped build. I was going to ensure that Patterson Industries would rise from the ashes of Luke's betrayal, stronger than ever. As I ended the call, I glanced down at Olivia, her small hand grasping mine. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but I was no longer afraid. This was my fight now, and I was ready to win. 1 year had passed since that fateful night when everything changed. The dust had settled, but the ripples from the storm still felt fresh in my mind. Patterson Industries had emerged from the wreckage, not only intact but stronger than ever. The company, once marred by scandal, was now thriving under new leadership, my leadership. As I stood in front of the sleek glass windows in my new office, overlooking the Detroit skyline, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come. The world outside was bustling, full of opportunity and possibility. And so was I. The future that had once seemed uncertain was now clear, laid out before me like an open road. I had taken the position of Chief Technology Officer, a role I had earned and fought for. And in doing so, I had regained more than just control of the company. I had reclaimed my identity. Patterson Industries had gone through a digital transformation under my guidance. Our cybersecurity division had gained traction, securing major contracts with financial institutions that trusted our vision for the future. What had once been a company on the brink of collapse now stood as a leader in the tech world. All because I had made the decision to rise from the ashes of my own personal devastation. My phone buzzed on the desk, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from Jessica, my lawyer. The board meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. You'll be announcing the new international partnerships, including the expansion to Singapore. I smiled at the message. A year ago, I would have never dreamed of being in this position. But now, here I was, ready to take on the world. The phone buzzed again, but this time, it was a video call from Nicole, Luke's sister. She appeared on the screen, her face somber, a frown tugging at her lips. Sophia, she began, her voice tentative. I just wanted to check in. How are you holding up? It's been a crazy year. And I know things haven't been easy with the family. I paused for a moment, thinking about how everything had unfolded. Nicole was the only member of the Patterson family who had reached out to me after the dust had settled. She didn't ask about the company or about the scandal. She simply wanted to know how I was. And for that, I respected her. I'm good, Nicole, I replied, my voice steady. Better than I've ever been. Actually, things have changed, but I'm not the same person I was a year ago. And that's a good thing. She nodded, her expression softening. I'm proud of you, Sophia. You've done something incredible, but I know it's been hard. I don't know how Luke is handling all of this. Well, he's not the man he was. I couldn't suppress the bitter smile that tugged at my lips. Luke's downfall had been swift and brutal. The man I had once thought I knew had crumbled under the weight of his lies and his betrayal. His once stellar reputation was in tatters. And now, he faced the consequences of his actions, both professionally and legally. I think he's getting exactly what he deserves, I said, my voice cold but not without resolve. And I'm not going to waste any more of my energy on him. Nicole's face fell, and for a moment, I could see the weight of the family's brokenness in her eyes. She was still mourning the loss of the man she had once believed in. But I had long since stopped mourning. What I had now, what I was building, was so much more important. I'm proud of you, too, I added softly, my gaze shifting to Olivia, who was playing with her toys nearby. This is about her now. It's about what we can create. A future we can be proud of. Nicole gave me a sad smile before ending the call. As the screen went dark, I looked over at Olivia. Her little face lit up with the kind of innocence that only children possess. She was the only reminder of the life I had lost. But also the reason I had fought so hard to rebuild. The phone buzzed once more. And this time, it was a reminder for the upcoming board meeting. It was time to continue the work I had started. To lead Patterson Industries into the future. My future, our future. And as I walked into the conference room that afternoon, ready to announce the next big step in the company's expansion, I knew one thing for certain: the legacy of Patterson Industries would be mine to shape. The past was behind me, and the future was wide open, filled with possibilities. I wasn't just moving on, I was moving up, and I was ready for whatever came next.